There was a huge mistake that I made in my dental practice. Fortunately, I learned what I did wrong and corrected it. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today on this episode of the Dental Practice Fixers podcast. I'm Dr. Richard Maddow, co-founder of the Maddow Center for Dental Practice Success, the host of the Dental Practice Fixers, and the first to say welcome, welcome, welcome to our first podcast of 2025. It's so great to have you here. And thanks so much for listening. And I'm excited to tell you about this crazy mistake. And we'll do some mystery shopper calls. But first, I want to let you know about two things to really look forward to in early 2025. First of all, as you probably know, I have a really super busy speaking schedule. It's going to be crazy this spring. But the odds that I'm actually coming to your town or a meeting you're going to, I know are pretty slim. So I decided to do something really special, and that is make an at-home version of my most popular course. It's called How to Create a Memorable Patient Experience in Your Practice. It's a full day course. It's just crammed with incredible tips for you to provide the greatest patient experience in your practice. I'll be telling you about that in the next few weeks. Also, one of the most common comments I get after one of these speaking engagements is somebody will come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, I want to do what you do. It looks like fun." And I got to tell you, being a dental speaker is a blast. So for that reason, this spring of 2025, I'll be doing a very special, intimate, hands-on course called You Can Be a Dental Speaker. We did this at the Maddow Center about 10 years ago. It was a huge success. The first one sold out instantly, but things have just gotten crazy busy. And then we had that whole COVID mess. And for whatever reason, haven't done one in 10 years, but I'll be doing one this spring. You Can Be a Dental Speaker. It's a 2-day hands-on workshop. It's awesome. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, so I want to flash back to a day many, 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 many years ago, pretty much when I first opened my practice. As you may know, I bought a bankrupt practice. So not only was my practice kind of at zero from day one, it was negative. I was in the hole. I bought a practice that owed money and it was just a disaster. Um, but instead of padlocking the door, I guess they found a sucker to purchase it, and that was me. So early on in my practice days of my first practice ownership, it was a really big thing when we had a new patient on the schedule. I got so excited. I had this little habit. I used to run into my private office because it faced the parking lot of the office, and I'd be there peering through the Venetian blinds, waiting to see what the new patient looked like when they pulled up, how they were dressed, what they looked like, what kind of car they drove, all those things. I was in there peering through the Venetian blinds so much, my team nicknamed me Gladys Kravitz. If you're not sure who that is, I guess you should Google it. But they called me Gladys Kravitz. I remember this one day. I was so excited because we had two, count them, two new patients on the schedule. So it's the morning, first new patient's due, and I'm rushing to my private office. I'm Gladys Kravitzing through the Venetian blinds, and this, I think it was a Jaguar convertible, actually. This beautiful car, expensive car, pulls up, parks right in front. And this woman gets out and she is dressed like a model, and she's got the fancy purse and the jewelry and the watch. I mean, the whole deal, the shoes, you name it. She had it. She came in and she had her examination, and she was so nice and really, really genuinely interested in the treatment she needed, which was a ton of treatment. And we talked about it. She asked the best questions. I was so excited. Then she went up to the front desk when it was time to schedule and told my office manager, Carol, that actually she couldn't schedule quite yet because she was having some financial issues. She was a high-end real estate, what do you call them? Real estate broker, high-end real estate person. And I think that it was so important to her to impress her clients that she went into debt with all this fancy stuff, the car, the clothes, the watch, the jewelry. I don't know. I hope it paid off for her eventually, but I got to tell you, we never heard from her again. I was really disappointed. I was so sure that this person, well, they certainly were interested in the treatment, but I was so sure that payment wouldn't be a problem. Yet it was. So, yeah, I was a little depressed, but I still had my confidence up because there was another new patient on the schedule. So, in the afternoon, sure enough, I rush into the private office. I'm peering through the Venetian blinds, and this beat up old station wagon pulls up about 10 minutes before the appointment time. I'm thinking, well, and he parked a little bit far away. Thinking that's probably not my guy. And this guy gets out of the car and he starts walking towards my office door. So I figured, okay, this is my patient. He's wearing like those mechanics coveralls, grease all over them. He walks in, seemed like a super nice guy. He goes to shake my hand because I introduced myself and got grease all over my hand. So I'm like wiping them off with my scrubs. And then he smiled and man, his gums were like, I don't know what they were, 50 shades of gray. They were like green and blue and purple. And then his teeth kind of looked like a shade guide with a couple tabs missing. Like every tooth was a different shade and there were some holes and just a mess. And he was the nicest guy ever. And we did his exam. And I was thinking, like, this guy needs so much treatment. What should I do? Should I present compromised treatment? Should I take it really, really slow? How do I tell him that he needs all this dental treatment? I didn't know what to do. It was kind of nuts. But at the end of the exam, I started talking to him. I set the chair up and we already had some friendly conversations about this and that. And he said, hey, Dr. Matto, I know I need a ton of work and I'm ready to get it now. And I can only imagine how much it's going to cost, but whatever it is there any way that if I pay cash up front, you'll give me a discount? And I thought for a split second, yes, I will. I couldn't believe it. I was new in practice. This guy needed a 5-figure treatment plan. I'd probably never done a case that large before. And he's willing to pay cash up front. My man, this was awesome. So I did give him a slight discount. And I'm thinking, like, I'm not trying to judge mechanics. I mean, God, mechanics are great. My mechanic is the coolest guy ever. But how do they make the kind of money that's going to let him get this treatment so easily and just whip out a ton of cash to pay for it? Well, it turned out his name was Mr. Dillon, and he was a mechanic. And when he was in high school, he got a job at a bus company, a local bus company, because he was really talented and smart with the bus engines. He didn't have any kind of business education or any formal education really beyond high school, but he was so good with business and figures and strategies and marketing. He kind of started helping the owner of the company. And as he was there a few years, he started taking over some of the administrative and marketing, the things that you wouldn't normally associate a mechanic doing. And he was so good at it, he rose to become the president of the company. And when the owner was ready to retire, he purchased this bus company. And then, as we say, he took it to the next level. He owned all the school buses that operated in many of the suburbs around Baltimore. He started a tour bus division. He was just doing amazingly well, and he loved his job, and he was making a great income. And he dressed like a mechanic because he still was a mechanic at heart, and he loved getting in there and hanging out with the mechanics and tinkering with the engines or answering their questions if they had any teaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. I mean, just the nicest guy ever. He wound up referring so many people that worked for him. And then you can imagine what that happens. But what happens then? Their families come in, their friends come in. I probably got 30 or 40 patients. And this incredible, huge case, maybe my first ever, because of this guy. And I'm just thinking, wow, I just like judged two people and I was wrong both times. I judged the real estate agent. I thought she was rolling in the dough. It turned out she was in debt. I judged the mechanic. I thought maybe he's not going to be able to afford his treatment, but well, I didn't even have to go for it. He told me immediately he was ready. So that was luck. If he hadn't told me that, I'm not sure how things would have turned out. But fortunately, they turned out great. And it's kind of that age-old lesson that you can't look at somebody and determine if they're ready for treatment or if they have the money. It doesn't matter how they're dressed. It doesn't matter what their job is. It doesn't matter if they don't speak English well, if English is their second or third language. It doesn't matter if they're old or young. None of these things matter. What matters is that they came to you and you owe it to them to do an amazing job in any way you can. And sometimes that might be compromised treatment or slow treatment or whatever it is, but never assume it. Never assume it. Always assume that they came to you looking for great treatment and you're ready to enthusiastically give it to them. So, wow. The great lesson that I learned, fortunately, I learned it early in my career. Who knows how many cases or patients or referrals I would have lost if I had done the old thing that we do. And I'm not saying we do it consciously, and I'm not saying we're proud of it, but I think subconsciously, it's just human nature to size people up and to size things up and then proceed accordingly, whether it's in our words or our body language or our team or our policies. So I hope that everybody's listening to this podcast together as a team. And if you're not, please call a team meeting and play it again, because this is such an important lesson. It really changes attitudes. It changes the way you look at things. This is applicable whether you have a super high-end practice or what we might call a bread and butter practice. All patients should be offered the best. It doesn't mean that we have to scare them away or high pressure them. I'm sure you heard my whole treatment planning strategy in another podcast where we don't scare them away or high pressure them. But let's not make assumptions either, because as Tony Randall once said, when you assume, ASSUME, you make an ass of you and me. So don't do it. All right. Wow. How much fun is this? For the first podcast in the new year. I'm having a great time, and I hope you are too. And we're going to do some mystery shopper calls. But before we do, two quick reminders. One, as you probably know, I send tips and deals and tricks and strategies and all these great practice building things to your inbox if you want them a few times a week. Just go to matto.com/tips to sign up. It's our e-newsletter. You'll hear from me every now and then, and it's always with good stuff. Plus, you'll get to find out when this speakers course and my how to create a memorable patient experience in your practice at home course comes out. So go to matto.com/tips and you'll get all that stuff. I promise you'll love it. Secondly, why not start the new year by saving money? And you can do that by lowering your overhead. Use Stacks for your credit card processing like we do. We don't pay that overage percentage, just a low, flat monthly fee. You can save tens of thousands of dollars. Go to matto.com/save to learn more. Matto.com/save. Okay, let's do some mystery shopper calls. I kind of started with a goofy question. I guess it was a little bit goofy. And that was, what's the difference between a crown and a cap? But I framed it in the way that I know I need three of these things. So you would think that every single practice would jump at the chance to have me come in. Let's see if they do. Okay, here is call number one.
Dentistry, how may I help you?
I have a question for you. Well, first of all, are you accepting new patients these days?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so my question is, my last dentist, it wasn't that long ago, told me I needed 3 crowns, but I wasn't sure the difference between a crown and a cap. What's the difference between those two things?
There. I guess it depends on the phrase, because the crown and the cap are the same thing. Like a crown and a veneer are total different, but the crown is like a covering that goes on top to protect the tooth, and that's the same thing as the cap.
Same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're like the same cost and everything.
Yes.
And what's a veneer?
A veneer is more of a cosmetic option. So, for example, if you have a tooth that has a root canal on it, a crown is just recommended to protect it. A veneer is there's no issues with the tooth. You just want to change the color, you want to change the shape, make all the teeth match. It would go towards the veneer route.
So more for cosmetics, not for like structural integrity.
Yeah.
Got it. And how much does a crown cost? Or a cap?
It just depends on insurance and office. It could range from about, let's say, $800 to maybe like $1,800.
Oh, wow. That's a big range. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Cool. Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. All right.
Have a nice day.
Oh, you have a super nice one. Bye.
You too. Bye.
I love it when they end with "have a nice day" instead of saying "let's get you scheduled." It's just amazing how many people use that exact phrase, "have a nice day." Now, if you notice at the beginning of this call, I totally set her up. I said, "Are you accepting new patients?" If somebody starts a call by asking, "Are you accepting new patients?" and then they don't follow through and try to get the appointment, ooh, man, that's just like double bad. I don't know why she had to start getting into the veneers thing. That made no sense to me at all, but it doesn't even matter because all she had to do to salvage this call was to try to schedule me at the end. But instead, she told me to go have a nice day. Let's see if that happens again. Here's the next call.
Dental office?
I've got a question for. Well, first of all, are you taking new patients now?
Yes, we are.
Cool. So, I had a dental checkup like a few months ago, and they told me I needed 3 crowns, and I haven't gotten them done yet. But my question for you is, they didn't really explain it well. What's the difference between a crown and a cap?
A crown and a cap?
Hmm.
Normally, that's like a cap would be a nickname for a crown. That's what I've
Oh,
known.
so it's a nickname. Kind of like if somebody's name is Robert, you could also call them Bobby, but they're the same person.
Yes.
Okay, so if I need 3 crowns, then I would also need 3 caps, kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Got it. Great. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, she didn't say have a nice day. She kind of just unceremoniously hung up on me. I guess that's worse. At least have a nice day as somewhat of a politeness to it. Okay. Again, I need 3 crowns. You're accepting new patients. You do crowns in your office. You'd love to have me in. What's the problem, Ossifer? It's just unbelievable that this potential new patient calls needing 3 crowns and was not offered an appointment. I'm flabbergasted. Let's do one more call and see if it happens again.
Office, this is Lisa. How may I help you?
Yeah, I have a question for you. I had a dental checkup at another office like 6 months ago, but I'm looking for a new dentist. But my question is, they told me I needed 3 crowns, but I wasn't sure like the difference between a crown and a cap. They never explained that. What is the difference?
Well, it kind of depends. As what I could do, I would have to schedule you. You could come in, speak with the doctor, bring your records. So, there are fillings and there are crowns. A crown is different from a filling. But if they say a cap, that's probably, as you said, a crown they're talking about. But I would be happy to schedule you to come in.
So if I brought my records, should I bring like Frampton Comes Alive and some Beatles records?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when would you like to schedule? And yes, you could bring your records with you and we could start out. I guess you don't need a cleaning or anything. It would be like a consultation.
Consultation sounds right.
All right. And which day were we looking at?
Well, not first of all, but third of all, I want to tell you this is actually a mystery shopper call. And you got an A+ because you offered me an appointment, which is the key thing. You're very friendly, kind.
Yes.
You like my goofy sense of humor, and you offered an appointment. So way to go. And if you want to listen to this podcast, it's called the Dental Practice Fixers, and you may be on it.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
What company are you calling from?
Yeah, what's the matter? Okay, I cut that off because then she just asked me all these questions about the podcast and how she can listen. But I will say, was she like unbelievable? I don't know. I'm not saying that she handled that question incredibly well, but she handled it fine. But the main thing is she made it clear that she really can't, in a nice way, this is not like over the phone information. The best move will be for me to come in for a consultation. And then she actually, I know it's amazing, she actually tried to schedule me. Now, this is not the exact technique that I recommend, but again, if something's working well for you, keep doing it. She said, which day are we looking at? So in other words, she made it clear that it was up to me. If I said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, hopefully she'd be able to appoint me. So I like that. She gave, I always like to give 2 exacting choices, but I have no problem with this. Which day are we looking at? If I would have said Thursday, she probably would have said, okay, let's see what we have for you on Thursday. So that was good. She wouldn't just let me off the phone by saying, have a nice day or something idiotic. She actually made a great attempt to get me in for a consult. And if I were a real patient who needed crowns and she said, which day are we looking at? I'm sure I would have been on the schedule. So wow, this is such a rarity. We're starting 2025 with somebody who actually got a passing grade. Amazing. Maybe that's a good way to end the first podcast of 2025. Just remember, get our tips right from me to your inbox by going to Madow.com/tips. We don't sell our list or spam you or do anything crazy like that. Just great dental stuff on a regular basis. And if you want to send me an email, let me know how things are, question, whatever it is. My personal email address is rich, R-I-C-H, at Madow, MADOW.com. I answer every single email. And if you're a practice owner and want to talk to me about how we can help grow your practice, just go to Madow.com/calendar to schedule. All right, that's going to do it for now. I'm Dr. Richard Maddow, co-founder of the Maddow Center for Dental Practice Success. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and I'll see you soon. Bye.